Blue Beetle is the brand new DC film which just hit theaters this past Friday. The film stars Zolo Mariduena as Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetle, who is the first member of his family to graduate from college. But when he returns home from college, his entire family has gone broke. Their place where they lived is getting gentrified into a white, rich area. But one day he runs into, while he's working at a very wealthy place, Jenny Cord, played by Bruna Marquezan. Sorry, hopefully I'm saying her name right, who is the niece of Susan Sarandon's character, Victoria Cord. Victoria Cord runs the Cord Foundation that is looking for the Scarab for military purposes. But when Jenny realizes that her aunt is doing something wrong, Jenny gives the Scarab to Jaime without him knowing, and the Scarab picks Jaime to be the next Blue Beetle. So Jaime, his family, you have Alberto, played by Damien Alcazar, his father, his uncle, Rudy, played by George Lopez, his grandmother, Nana, played by Adriana Barraza, his sister, Milagro, played by Melissa Escobedo, and his mom, Elpida Carrillo, are trying to save the day, as well as Jenny joining them so she can overtake and resound the name of the Cord legacy. The film is 2 hours and 7 minutes long and it's PG-13. Welcome back to review here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Stingenberg. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and every Monday I'll releasing around the same time as this, my box office breakdown. So please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, comment down below. First of all, did you see Blue Beetle in theaters? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you want to see James Gunn keep this character for his DCU, or are you just kind of just over this era of DC in your opinion? If you've not seen it, which a lot of people seems like they have not, tell me, why did you not want to go see Blue Beetle in theaters? Are you just waiting for it to come out on digital? And also, please like the video, guys, the thumbs up button if you're new to the channel. So if you guys also, if you've been on my channel, just didn't get my Heart of Stone review, I'm changing up my style now for reviews. This was the last time I say it, that I'm not going to do positives, negatives in my score. I'm just going to give my general thoughts on the movie, and how I'm feeling about it, and then go into my score at the very end. So let's get into, I guess, another thing about this movie, if you guys didn't know, Blue Beetle was supposed to be an HBO Max original film that they tested very well, and that's why this movie's in theaters. So let's get into my review of Blue Beetle. So overall, I really found this film to be very charming and authentic, and I think this really did touch me, I think, a lot more than I was expecting. I was definitely excited for this movie, and while a lot of people were bad-mouthing the movie, and guess what? It did not make a lot of money at the box office, which I'll get into in my box office breakdown show. But this doesn't deter if a movie is bad or good. It just means that people weren't, I guess, interested, but I was interested. And it's a film that doesn't have any kind of mainstream, superstars in the cast. But what's really special about this movie is the authenticity to Latino Hispanic culture that really comes through this movie. And that's not just because of the on-screen talent, but also the behind-the-screen talent and just the culture that is just overflowing in this movie in such a beautiful way. This is a really, and again, I hate comparing, I'm not going to even do it. I think a lot of people are going to compare this to like the Black Panther for Latino audiences, but this is, we got to stop comparing these things to each other. And that's because Blue Beetle is one of one, in my opinion, as it pertains to its family and culture storylines that is in the movie. And that's really comes through, again, we'll talk about the behind the scenes and the writing of the culture, but really it does come through with the main cast members of this film. Jolo Mariduena, who is best known obviously for Cobra Kai, is a leading man. And I do think that even if this movie doesn't do well in its entirety, in its run in theaters, I do think a lot of studios are going to be one clamoring for him to be a lead actor moving forward in Hollywood. He brings a lot of, yes, star power and charisma to the movie, but he does also just feel like a regular person who gets put into this situation. He does not seem like a larger-than-life person who's a part of a larger-than-life family, because it's not. The core of this movie is family, and it does come through with a guy who has a lot of responsibilities. He finally graduated college, first person in his family to graduate college, but that also put his family in a lot of debt, and he's trying to balance and also realize, sadly, the realistic things of a lot of people and a lot of different ethnicities and races and cultures, that even if they do the American dream and graduate college, that doesn't guarantee you're going to have this lavish job. And it's really sad that it's definitely a truth in the movie. And that really comes to with Jaime's character, obviously, before he gets the scarab and becomes the Blue Beetle. But the whole family itself has a lot of great chemistry. I think the standout of the family, other than Jaime, is Rudy, played by George Lopez, who I think brings kind of the only good comedy that is into the movie. The movie definitely misses more than it hits for me with the comedy, but when it does hit, it's usually from George Lopez's character. And he isn't just there to be the comedic flavor to the movie. And he definitely has a lot of the comedic responsibilities in the movie, but he also has a lot of good, serious heart-to-heart scenes with Jaime that I think is really interesting in the movie. The other main cast standout that I want to talk about is Bruna Marquezine, who plays a Brazilian actress who plays Jenny Cord, the niece of a Sarandon's character. She's fabulous in the movie and has really great chemistry with Jaime. And I think the best part of the movie is really their different lives kind of becoming one, really, which is Jaime grew up in this very poor, now becoming gentrified area in this fictional city. And even though that they are struggling and they are broke and it's tough for them to see a future, they are still together and united and close because they're our family. And even when the hard things in life become really difficult, they stick together through it all. And she came through a life that is very wealthy, very lavish, very wealthy, but also very lonely. And I think both really see differences where he kind of sees what her life is. He's kind of taken back and would kill to have her life. And then she also, even though he's not rich, his family's poor, out of debt, broke, she would kill to be in his life. And I really find the duality of both those characters. Yes, you've seen that before, but I think because of the performances and the writing, that really comes through with those two characters. So yes, obviously they have romantic chemistry in general, but the actual reason why they could like each other, I think, really does come through in the movie as well. I also think the suit itself looks very, very cool. This movie isn't just there to be another comic book movie as it pertains to just having jokes after jokes after joke. This movie definitely takes itself definitely seriously. There's a lot of emotional moments in the movie that I think for the most part really came through. And I think it's very similar to what Shazam did for with their story about this adopted family that movie is about. This really does that in a completely different way and really does show the Latino culture, and I think in a really beautiful way. And while yes, even though I'm a white person, this movie really did touch me in a lot of different ways. Now, while there's a lot of freshness, as I said, and I love this cast and I love these characters, I really do love our main group of good characters in this film. And also, before we get to some of the stuff as well, I also really liked the score of this movie as well. It's a really good score to it as well. I wanted to bring up, and the directing is for me, very confident as well. But as I said earlier, the movie also, it has a lot of cliches of the superhero genre. I think if you haven't seen a lot of superhero films, this might seem really fresh to you. But if you're like me, you've been very consumed by this genre since really my whole life. You've kind of seen this before. I think the weakest part of the movie is kind of the villains of the film. Really, Susan Sarandon as Victoria Cord is really the most cliche superhero villain that you'll ever see. It's an industrial person who wants to take over the world with all of their stuff. You've kind of seen her character in a billion other movies before. Her connection to Jenny Cord, her niece, played by Marquezine, it doesn't make the movie any more interesting. And I just felt every time we got into the villain, just felt like an early 2000s storyline for a superhero film. It just wasn't that interesting to me whatsoever. And while I think the action is definitely watchable in this movie, it's definitely a slightly above average. There's no jaw-dropping or memorable action scene in the movie. So I do think if they keep this franchise and really this character moving forward in James Gunn's DCU. I really do think they need to amp up the action scenes because I felt like they held a lot of things back in the action scenes. And I do feel like if this movie had maybe one, maybe two action scenes, this would have gone a lot more up for me in the DC totem pole. But overall, as I said, there are a lot of superhero cliches that I do think get quite distracting in the movie. A lot of the comedy just doesn't really hit, and the villains themselves are just really not that interesting. And I would have liked a little bit more interesting action. Overall, I was swept away in this family storyline, the authenticity of the Latino culture with a really likable cast and a family that I just desperately wanted to see make it through this movie. So overall, I'm going to give Blue Beetle a 4 out of 5 stars. I am going to go 80% for Blue Beetle. I really thought this was a great movie. I highly recommend it. There are some distracting elements of old superhero tropes, but for me, the family really overcame it. So what are your thoughts on Blue Beetle? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video, subscribe. More videos are coming soon. I'll see you then.